My name is Jen, and I'm the Teen Services Librarian at the main library. And this is Books and Bites. Books and Bites is a program I usually do in person at several of the junior highs and high schools in Boise, where students bring their lunches to the school library and eat while I tell them about some books they might want to read. But now we've gone virtual, so grab a snack wherever you are and let's talk about books. For this episode, there's really only one thing we can talk about. It's what we should all be talking about and reading about, and it is how to become a better anti-racist. Right? In the past month, you've probably seen a lot of lists out there with recommendations of what to read, and sometimes that can be overwhelming. So today I have some books that are good places to start learning about the history of racism and racist ideas in the US, and then another group of books of all genres written by Black authors about Black characters. So let's get started. If you're looking to be more informed about how we got to this place, I highly recommend Stamped: Racism, Antiracism, and You by Jason Reynolds and Ibram X. Kendi, and This Book is Antiracist by Tiffany Jewell and Aurelia Durand. Stamped is a remix of an adult book and explains how racist ideas in the US have been around since the beginning. That's 400 years, and how many of them are still being used today. It sounds like a lot, and it is, but Jason Reynolds is an amazing writer, and he writes about it in a way that doesn't read like a history book. This Book is Antiracist also gives you some history, but mostly fills you in on things you need to be aware of and things you can do to be an anti-racist. Because a lot of times with problems as big as racism, you might not know where to start. And this skinny little book gives you a lot of tips. It's also really colorful and has great illustrations. For a lot of us, when we think about racism and being Black in the US, we think of the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 60s. The March graphic memoir trilogy by John Lewis and Nate Powell is a great place to start if you want to learn more about that era. John Lewis played a big role in the civil rights movement, and these 3 books chronicle what his life was like. The important thing to remember when you read them is that when we think of the civil rights movement, we think it being a long time ago. But John Lewis is a current congressman from Georgia, so it wasn't so long ago. Also, if you're looking for fiction books that are very relevant to the recent protests, pick up The Hate You Give by Angie Thomas, All American Boys by Jason Reynolds and Brendan Kiley, and Dear Martin by Nick Stone. All 3 of these books deal with Black teens who either witnessed the police shooting of one of their friends or are involved in a situation where the police treat them differently than their white classmates because of the color of their skin. Now, the books I just mentioned are very important and are full of information we all need to read about and process and to apply to our lives. But there are also a ton of books out there in every genre written about Black characters by Black authors that have nothing to do with tragedy and trauma. And it's important to read those as well, because love and adventure and time travel and dragons and quests and mystery and magic don't just happen to white people and white characters, you know? So here are some books to keep on your radar. If you like sci-fi, try Binti by Nnedi Okorafor, about a girl who's the only survivor on a spaceship attacked by aliens who are literally giant blue space jellyfish. If you like fantasy, try Children of Blood and Bone by Tomi Adeyemi, about a girl trying to bring magic back to her kingdom, or Pet by Akwaeke Emezi, about a future society where all problems that we have now have been fixed until a monster shows up and makes everyone see that maybe that's not the case. If you like romance, you should try See Me in a Crown by Leah Johnson. I mean, for the cover alone, am I right? About a girl who spent her whole high school career trying to be invisible and then has to compete for prom queen because she needs the scholarship attached to winning the crown. And then suddenly this girl moves into town that takes all of her focus away. Or The Opposite of Always, about a guy who meets the girl of his dreams, but then she dies suddenly and he keeps waking up in the exact moment when they met until he can figure out a way to keep her from dying. And if you like contemporary realistic fiction, try The Field Guide to the North American Teenager by Philippe, about a guy who has to move from Canada to Texas for his mom's new job and decides to take notes on all the people he meets like he's writing a field guide. Like that's not going to lead to trouble. Or Solo by Kwame Alexander, about a guy who is the son of a famous rock star who finds out he's adopted and takes off on a quest to find his biological parents. These are just a few examples, but there's literally something written by a Black author for every genre you like to read. If you've already read any of these, or if you want other options, send me an email at jwills@cityofboise.org and I'll find others for you because I love that kind of thing. Finally, you may have noticed that I am white. It's true. And because of that, I'm constantly reading and listening and learning and unlearning things in order to become a better anti-racist and ally. And one of the first steps of doing this was to diversify my social media feeds. Whether you're on Instagram or Snapchat or TikTok or YouTube, you can find Black creators talking about everything you're interested in, including books. If you'd like a list of Black bookish creators, email me again at jwills@cityofboise.org and I'll send you a list. Now, you can place all the books I've talked about today on hold with your library card, and several of them are available through Libby or RB Digital as ebooks or audiobooks for download. However it is that you get them, I just hope that you do. That's all for Books and Bites for this month. I hope you are doing well and having a great summer, and I can't wait to hang out with you again. See you next time.